Alright, so today I want to look at a specific game between Bobby Fischer and Minich. It was a really cool attacking game in the King's Gambit, as a lot of them usually are, especially coming from a player like Bobby Fischer, who is known as a really interesting attacker. Um, and I think it's a great lesson in when you can give up material, but ultimately get a decisive advantage and win a game. So briefly, I just want to go over the King's Gambit really quickly, just a quick background, so we can compare it to the actual game. Normally, the King's Gambit goes something like e4, e5, f4. Obviously, this is necessary, and then there are a few moves here. You can play kind of like a counter gambit with d5, commonly bringing the knight out to c6, or you can accept the gambit by taking on f4. After takes, it's most common to bring the knight to f3, g5, backing up this pawn, h4, undermining the g5 advance, and then g4, to g5. And you can see there's a nice outpost for the knight here on g5. The bishop's going to swing over, and we're going to attack the weak pawn on f7. Another really fun quick thing here is the double Muzio gambit, something like g5, and instead of playing h4 in response, undermining here, you can play bishop c4. They will most commonly push, hitting your knight, and instead of moving the knight, you simply castle, allowing them to take. You get quick development. Black would usually play queen f6, but as you can see, it's going to be a really interesting game. And this is the Muzio. There's a double gambit where you can sacrifice even more material. But yeah, so this is just basic theory. Let's get into the game a little bit here. So here we go. e4, e5. King's Gambit accepted. And instead of playing knight f3 like we saw, another move less common though is to play bishop c4. And this is really an aggressive move. You're really going to try and punish this f7 pawn, look to develop quickly, and go for an attack. Minich played knight to e7 here, which is an interesting move. More commonly, we'll see queen h4 check, forcing the king to come to f1. The bishop will come out, d4, and then the bishop will be forced back. And it's certainly an interesting position. This knight will come out hitting the queen, and there's a lot to go over here. I'm not going to go into it too far, but that's more common. Knight e7, I'm not going to call it a mistake, but it's certainly, I don't know if it's as complicated for white as the check here. Fischer continues to develop with knight c3, c6, looking to play d5. The knight comes out, bishop comes out, excuse me, d5 comes, forcing the bishop back. D takes e4, knight takes e4, d5, bringing the knight out, looking to activate his dark squared bishop. Queen e2 with a nice idea, possibly forking with a discouraged attack on the king. But we'll see that Minich just simply plays bishop e7. Fischer strikes with c4, trying to delay castling here, but after the knight comes back, Black will just choose king safety here, and after Fischer takes a bit more space in the center with d4, Black just castles, and this does give up this pawn, but it moves the king to safety. I think Minich was obviously pretty nervous about White's development. We can see all of his pieces are developed, and there's not much going on. All of his pieces are stacked up over here doing nothing. So he castles. Fischer grabs a pawn. The knight comes out attacking the bishop, and we'll see here that maybe throwing in this bishop check could have been more accurate. But in playing this knight out, he's looking to develop his pieces. He's really wants to get his stuff off the back rank, and he's hitting the bishop. So Fischer's going to move the bishop back. We're going to get b4 check, and the king can simply come to f2. Knight d7, c5, blocking the bishop from returning, knight f6, and we get an exchange here. Knight takes on f6, queen takes, and we get rook to f1. So this is kind of an interesting idea. It's a long way off, but we see this rook is actually lining up nicely with the queen. Maybe the king will move back away from danger here, the file will open, and there could be some attacking chances down the line, as we'll see. And if you really want to try and figure out an interesting attack, this game ends 8 moves from this position, so things got really heated really quickly. Knight f4, bringing the knight in, where he's attacking the queen, probably going to force, there's not really any great squares for the queen to move to, so bishop takes, queen takes, and then Fischer's going to force the queen back with g3. Queen goes back to h6, and like I said before, look what's happening. This f-file is wide open. We have attackers pointing down. The queen's going to come in. This rook might move over eventually, and this game is really starting to take shape for Bobby Fischer. What Minich wants to do here is go for some sort of queen trade, try and remove some of these attackers, and try and if he can get a queen trade, he's going to be equal, if not slightly better. And Minich is he's not just some crummy player. This is a grandmaster. I think he's rated close to 2400 when this game was played. Yeah, so this isn't just some casual player. So we have king g1. It's going to open up the file, like I said. We have bishop h3, and this is the point. So bishop h3 attacks the rook, but in reality, Fischer doesn't really care. All he wants is to throw his pieces down towards the f-file, towards this f2 pawn. He has this fantastic pin. The queen's really not doing much of defense, and this bishop move just seems to do nothing, especially in light of bishop takes, rook takes, and Minich has all the same problems with with one less defender. So Fischer doesn't even care. He simply plays the move knight to e5, and this has obviously an attack on the f pawn. It adds another attacker into the equation, and he disregards the attack on the rook. The computer here actually says that queen d2 is the best move, looking for a queen trade. Obviously, white still has a solid advantage here, but black can look for a queen trade. Taking the rook, it's almost decisive for white. I think it's +2 or +3. So Minich takes the rook. Fischer recaptures, and here there's just so much pressure on this pawn. There's literally almost it's just insane. All that black can do is maybe hope for a queen trade, some idea of bringing the bishop in and then the queen to e3. But we'll see Fischer actually shuts that down. So he sacks the exchange here. Minich plays bishop into d2, looking for the queen trade, as I said before. Fischer has 2 moves here. He can either bring the knight back here, protecting this square, not allowing the queen to come in, but he opts for rook f3, which maintains the rook on the file. The knight gets to continue looking at this pawn, and the queen really obviously can't come to that square to look for a trade. And then Minich played kind of the final blunder of the game, which doesn't look like a blunder at first, but he just kind of disregards Fischer's insane attack here, and he plays rook d8. And that attacks the pawn, but it does absolutely nothing to stop the attack. One thing I want to go over really quick is actually in this position, if Fischer plays a nothing move, instead of stopping the queen from coming in, let's just say he plays a4, queen e3, and this forces a queen trade, and it's actually a bit better for black here, if not equal. So Fischer's rook ad8, rook f3 stops that whole idea. So now we have Minich's decisive blunder, attacking the pawn, but forgetting about knight takes f7. And this is threatening a discovered attack on the queen with the bishop, it's hitting black's queen, it's hitting the rook, and there's not much that black can do in this position. And you'll see that after after rook takes, if you can find a move that pretty much ends the game instantly, maybe pause the video and try and figure it out. But here we have queen e7, and you're like, what? Wait, what's going on here? Oh wait, this rook is pinned. I'm bringing a second attacker of the rook, and there's nothing you can do. I have the I have 3 attackers of the rook. Checks just lead to simplifications, as I'll show, and here Minich resigned after queen e7. So just a brutal move. Like, what a way. Ending in this position, at a surface level, if you aren't even thinking, it looks like white has just hung his queen, but in reality, he's simply won the game. So let's look at knight takes f7. There's queen e3 check, right? You're just going to sack your queen, essentially, and this is going to be losing pretty surely. Queen h3 is another try, so, here, and then queen h3 maybe, getting the queen out of danger, but this is just going to lead to mate. Queen h3 stopping mate 1, queen comes in, king moves to the side, and then it's checkmate. Not much that black can do. 24, so after queen e7, what if black just protects the rook? Well, here you can simply take on f7, rook takes, queen takes, and then mate. You could, what about queen e3 check? In this position, well, again, you're just going to lose your queen for a rook, a queen and a bishop for a rook. That's obviously losing. Bobby's going to finish his game up. He still has the pin on this rook, and it's going to be over fairly soon. If king to h8, we have the forced mating sequence, and this is over. What about bishop to e3 check? Trying to somehow prevent white from mating you, simply sidestepping with the king. The queen, you can sack your queen, but this is not doing anything. Trying to give the king a place to run to just ultimately leads to checkmate. And the bishop holds the g8 square. So a really cool idea here, bringing the queen in, and obviously looking at this from an attacking perspective, we can see from this moment Bobby Fischer's greater plan. With the bishop on this nice diagonal, with the knight coming in, with the open f-file, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about sacking the exchange. This just helps him. And ultimately, Minich's final blunder, rook d8, just not quick enough, doesn't do anything to defend, and the decisive knight takes f7. So yeah, I thought this was a really cool game. So definitely, if you're a King's Gambit player, I would definitely study Bobby Fischer. He has a ton of cool games in the King's Gambit. And ultimately, just a super interesting game to see, and it really gives you some cool attacking ideas. Giving up the exchange, sacking material, and the super aesthetic queen e7. Like, you don't get much cooler than that, with the nice pin on this rook. So yeah, sweet. That's all I wanted to go over.